So hello friends, welcome back to our channel Adamya Education. So I hope your first examination was good and I'm wishing you all the best for the upcoming exams also. But for students who have exams right now who are still in the lower classes, especially those who are in class 9 and who are going to be promoted to class 10 very soon, this is a message for you all. Whatever live sessions I am doing recently, all these are associated with board examination question papers. So we are solving the previous year questions. So whenever your board examinations are around the corner, please do see these videos which will help you out to solve your doubts and also help in your preparation. So last day we were doing section 1 of 2019 biology question paper. Like I told you that in 2020 the biology paper was not held due to the pandemic. So we were sticking to 2019 question paper only. So we successfully completed the section 1 that day and today we are going to finish section 2. So without wasting much time, let's begin. So we are going to start with question number 2. Let's see. Given below is an experimental setup to demonstrate a particular tropic movement in germinating seeds. This is from the chapter Chemical Coordination in Plants, or the chapter related to plant hormones. Study the diagram and answer the questions that follow. Alright, so your first question is you have to label the parts 1 and 2. So as you can see, 1 is actually the root portion of the growing embryo and 2 is the shoot portion of the growing embryo. So the root portion is known as radicle. You have studied about this in the lower classes also. So 1 is radicle and 2 is plumule. Plumule is the shoot part of the growing embryo. Alright, so this is the answer of the first question. Now your next question is name the tropic movement shown by part 1. You know part 1 will develop into the root and roots have a tendency to get attracted towards moisture and also towards wherever it can find soil. So you can either write the answer as hydrotropism or also you can write the answer as geotropism. Both the answers will be correct in this case. Now your third question is part 1 is affected by two stimuli. Like I just told you, it is affected by moisture also and it is also affected by the presence of land, the presence of soil, or you can also directly say gravity. So these are the two stimuli which will affect part 1 or the radical portion. Name them. We have named it already. The answer will be water and gravity, or you can also write moisture and soil, presence of soil. Both will be correct. So which out of this is stronger, whether water plays a major role or whether gravity plays a major role? The answer will be water. Even if you place a soil high above the ground, it can still survive even if it has a very less amount of soil around it, but water is very essential for it. So hydrotropism will be much more prevalent in case of a plant. So the answer will be water. Okay, now your next question is what is thigmotropism? Give one example. So you have studied about thigmotropism. You know there are many plants, especially the creepers and the climbers, which show a response to touch. That means whenever they are growing, they will always find a support to coil their tendrils around it, isn't it? So thigmotropism is actually the movement in plants in response to stimulus of touch. So this is thigmotropism. An example, there are so many examples: cucumber, cuscuta, pea plant. These are a few examples. You can write one example and you will get full marks for this question. Now your next question is what is meant by positive and negative tropic movement in plants. So whenever we say that a root is positively geotropic but negatively phototropic, what does it mean? Negative means the plant is not showing response to it, to that particular stimulus, or the plant is moving away from that stimulus. So if you want to write positive response, positive means movement towards the stimulus. Okay, and if you want to talk about negative, it will mean movement away from the stimulus. So this is what you had to write: movement towards the stimulus, and negative means movement away from the stimulus. So I hope this question is clear. Very easy question. So let's move on to the second part of question number 2. We have to mention the exact location of the following parts. It is a very common question which is generally asked in biology. Exact location, and also you will be asked the function of certain parts, and also labeling comes. These are the most common questions which are asked in section 2. So your first question is testis. This is from the chapter human reproductive system. So testis is located inside the scrotal sac, or you can also write inside the scrotum. Both the answers are acceptable. Next is incus. You know that incus is an ear ossicle which is present between the malleus and the stapes. So you have to say that it is located in the middle ear, or you can also write it is located between the malleus and the stapes. Okay, both the answers are acceptable here. Now your next question is thylakoids. Directly you can write it that it is located in the chloroplast. That's all. You don't have to mention any other thing. But if you just write in the leaves, or in or you are writing that it is present in a plant, you will not get marks for that. You have to be specific, okay? And even if you write leaf, you might get half marks if the examiner is willing to, but otherwise I don't think you are going to get any marks for it. So be a little specific. So the correct appropriate answer will be chloroplast. Next is the amniotic fluid. This is also from the chapter reproduction. So amniotic fluid is present between the fetus and the amnion. The amnion is the covering around the fetus which protects it from mechanical injury. Or you can also write that amnion is a fluid which surrounds the fetus. That means it is present around the fetus. Both the answers are acceptable here also. Next is corpus callosum. Most of the students make a mistake and consider it to be corpus luteum and end up writing that it is present in the female reproductive organ system. But no, it is corpus callosum. Corpus callosum is a part of the brain. So it is a portion which is present between the two cerebral hemispheres, or between the two parts of the cerebrum. So you can either write between the cerebral hemispheres, you can write between the two cerebral hemispheres, or you can also write between the uh, two hemisphere, or between the two parts of the cerebrum. All these answers will be correct. Okay, so I hope this question is also clear to you. Very easy one, but you have to be thorough with your book so that you are able to answer it in one go. Let's move on to the next question now. Question number 3a. The diagram given below represents an experiment to prove the importance of a factor in photosynthesis. Answer the questions that follow. So this diagram is very much known to you, I guess. It is given in your book, and it is related to a very important factor which is an essential condition for photosynthesis to occur. So our first question is only that, name the factor which is studied in this experiment. So as we can see that a leaf has been covered with a black paper, and it's quite understandable that the factor is the presence of sunlight. So the presence of sunlight will be the first factor which is being studied in the experiment. So your next question is what will you observe in an experimental leaf after the starch test? You know that the starch test is done by using iodine. In the leaf, if there is starch present, then the leaf will turn blue-black, but if no starch is present, the leaf will become brown. You have studied about this, how the entire procedure is done. I don't think I have to explain it once again. So what will happen in this experimental leaf which we have covered with a black paper? The area which is covered by the black paper, it will not turn blue-black because the starch will not be present in it, because no photosynthesis is occurring in that part. No sunlight, so no photosynthesis. But the remaining part which is not covered with the black paper, that means these parts, they will show a blue-black coloration due to the presence of starch. So this is your observation which you will see after the experimental end. Now the third question is explain the process of photosynthesis. This is a very direct question from your book directly. There is nothing like to explain here. I am just going to tell you, and you have to remember it. So what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is a procedure occurring in plants through which it is able to produce its own food by using water and carbon dioxide, and the food which it's producing, it is in the form of glucose. So this is the answer. Very simple. You don't have to write exactly what is given in your book. If you write the key points, like what are the essential components used for photosynthesis, what is being produced, you are going to get full marks. You don't have to memorize from your book and write exactly, because this is not a law. So you can write it in your own words. Don't worry about it. Now your next question is give a balanced chemical equation to represent the process of photosynthesis. So let us write it. 6CO2 plus 12H2O gives C6H12O6 glucose. Some water is also released and we are getting oxygen. So as we see, oxygen is produced by this procedure which is helping so many organisms on earth to survive, right? Okay, let's move on to the next question. Draw a neat label diagram of an experimental setup to show that oxygen is released during photosynthesis. So see, the diagram is given here. It is given in your book also. By using water plants such as hydrilla, we can show that oxygen is released during the process of photosynthesis by using this funnel arrangement. So the diagrams which are given in your book especially the diagrams from which questions are asked in the previous years. Make sure that you are practicing it very nicely, because for diagrams many marks are allotted every year. Okay, so this is the diagram. Please note it down wherever it is present in your book. Now moving to the subpart of question number B. State the main functions of the following. So there are 5 parts given and you have to mention their functions. So you don't have to write a paragraph, or you don't have to use 4 lines. You can write it in a single line, but do mention the important characteristics or the functions of these parts. So your first question is medulla oblongata. You know that this is a part of our brain and it regulates the activities of the internal organs such as heartbeat, peristalsis, that means movement of the food down our esophagus or inside our stomach, intestines, etc. So most of the major internal activities are controlled by the medulla oblongata. That's why whenever there is any damage to the medulla oblongata, it can also result in death of the person. So these are the functions. You can either write regulates activities of the internal organs, this much is also enough, or you can also give certain examples. Okay, next question is cytokinin. This is a plant hormone. It helps in cell division, plant growth, it prevents aging, it helps in the expansion of cotyledons, it breaks seed dormancy, it promotes the synthesis of chloroplast in plants, it delays senescence. Senescence means aging. Okay, so you can, it has been repeated, prevents aging and delays senescence. Okay, you can write it in this way also. So any one function is more than enough. You don't have to write so many functions. Okay, any one function out of all what has been written here, it is okay. Now your next question is tears. Don't end up writing that tears help us to express emotions. That is a very wrong answer. You have to write what is its main function in the physiological processes in a human. Okay, so it lubricates the surface of the eye so that it does not become dry. Also it washes away dust. If by chance any dust particle has entered into our eye, we start releasing tears, isn't it? So it is actually done in order to remove those dust particles. It also kills germs, and it has an enzyme called lysozyme. Don't write lysosome. Lysosome is a cell organelle. Lysozyme is the enzyme. So lysozyme helps to kill bacteria. Okay, so these are the functions of the tears. You can write any one function again. Next is coronary artery. So coronary artery is the blood vessel which is supplying blood to the heart muscles for its own working. So it supplies oxygenated blood to the walls of the heart. You can also write it supplies oxygenated blood to the heart muscles. Both the answers will be correct. Next is the seminal vesicle. It is a part of the male reproductive tract. So it activates the sperms and it forms a medium for the transformation of sperms. You have been given the function of the 3 types of accessory glands: seminal vesicles, then you have the prostate gland, and you also have the bulbourethral gland. So each of their functions are very important. You should remember, because questions might come like what are the 3 accessory glands in males, in human males, and what are their functions. So you should remember. So in case of seminal vesicle, it produces a secretion which will help in the transportation of sperms. Okay, so these are the functions of the questions which have been asked to us. I hope it is clear to you. Now let us move on to the next question. Let's see. The diagram given below represents an organ system in the human body. Study the same and answer the questions that follow. Okay, so you have to identify the system. So this is the excretory system. Very easy. Excretory system. Okay, now your next question is label the parts marked 2 and 4. So this is 2 and this is 4. Okay, so what is 2? 2 is the ureter, which transfers the urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. So 2 is ureter. Okay, and number 4 is the sphincter muscle, whose opening and closing helps in the passage of urine outside the body. So sphincter muscles. Okay, I'm saying you once again, please make sure that you're writing the spellings correctly, because in biology, more than any other science subject, a lot of importance is given to the spellings, and if one spelling is wrong, you're not going to get any mark for that question. Okay. Now your next question is mention the function of part 5. So what is part 5? The part 5 is the urethra. It helps in the expelling of urine from our body. Okay. These are very common questions. If you have studied the chapters nicely, then you will be able to answer each and every question that is asked in your examination, because the questions are very direct. None of the questions are tricky, or you don't have to think much, or you don't have to work out a lot in order to answer these questions. Very directly from the book, from the diagrams which are generally asked over and over again, and I know that your teacher also might have told you in your school that these diagrams are important. So questions will be asked based on those diagrams only. So you don't have to freak out that what is going to be asked in the board examination. Questions are very simple based on your syllabus only. They do not ask things which are out of the box. Now your next question is, name the structural and functional units of the part marked 1. So part 1 is kidney, and what is the structural and functional unit of part 1? It is called the nephron, isn't it? So nephron will be the answer. Okay. Now your question 4 is, what is the fluid that accumulates in part 3? Part 3 is urinary bladder. So what is the fluid which is stored there? It is called urine, right? So urine will be the answer. Now your next question is, what is the main nitrogenous waste present in it? What is the main nitrogenous waste which is present in urine? It will be urea. And urea is a very dangerous nitrogenous waste and it has to be removed from the body. Okay, that is the role of the human excretory system. Now your next question is, draw a neat label diagram showing the longitudinal section of part 1. That means you have to draw a longitudinal section of the kidney. So here is the diagram. The same diagram is given in your book also. Please make sure that you are labeling it correctly, because for labeling also marks are present. Okay, so hope this question is also clear to you. Let's move on to the next question. The diagram given below represents an endocrine gland in the human body. Study the diagram and answer the following questions. So on the first go, it is quite difficult to understand which endocrine gland is this, but when you see that there are the labeling such as posterior, anterior, you can very easily identify that this is the pituitary gland, because in the pituitary gland only you find the anterior and posterior lobes. Okay, so even if you are not able to identify the diagram, by using a little bit of your brain you can easily understand just by seeing the labelings. Okay, so now your first question is, identify the endocrine gland and where it is located. So you know this is the pituitary gland, and where it is located? It is located at the back of the brain below the hypothalamus. It is given in your book very directly. It is a P-shaped organ. It is located below the hypothalamus. So this is the answer. Okay, now your next question is, why is the above gland called the master gland? So you know that the pituitary gland is responsible for controlling the activities of all the other endocrine glands in our body. This is the reason that the pituitary gland is also known as the master gland. So this is your answer. You don't have to write too much, okay? You have to just write up to the point and you are going to get full marks for that. Okay. So now your next question is, name the hormone which in deficiency causes diabetes insipidus. So make sure that you are reading it as diabetes insipidus. Just don't read it till diabetes and start writing insulin. That will not be the answer. So diabetes insipidus is caused due to the deficiency of, you can either write ADH or you can also write vasopressin. Both are acceptable because both are the same hormones. Okay, either vasopressin or either ADH. Okay. How does this disorder differ from diabetes mellitus? Okay, so you can write that diabetes mellitus is caused due to the deficiency of insulin, and diabetes insipidus is caused due to the deficiency of ADH. Also in diabetes mellitus, what happens? The human who has this disorder, that person's urine will be loaded with sugar because sugar is not being utilized in the body. But in case of diabetes insipidus, the urine will contain no amount of sugar. It will be full of water. Excessive water loss will occur from the body. So this is the basic difference between these two types of diabetes. Okay, now your next question is, what is a hormone? So what is a hormone? You know, it is given at the beginning of the chapter itself. So it is the secretion of an endocrine gland and it is directly transported to the target organs by the blood. It is not stored anywhere. There was also a table having the difference between endocrine and exocrine glands. So exocrine glands are the glands such as the glands which are present in our digestive system, like the pancreas. Okay, which then also our liver, which are releasing certain enzymes and they are being stored somewhere before they are moving to the target organs. But in case of hormones, there is no such duct, there is no such storage organ where they are stored. They are directly transported through the blood to the place where they have to act. So these are hormones. And your next question is, what is the role of tropic hormones in the human bodies? There are a lot of tropic hormones such as adrenocorticotropic hormones. Then you also have gonadotropic hormones. So what are these tropic hormones? Tropic hormones are also released by the pituitary gland and they stimulate the other endocrine glands to secrete their hormones. Like for example, if you are talking about the gonadotropic hormones, right? So gonadotropic hormones are responsible for, you can say, stimulating the gonads or the testis and the ovary in order to secrete their secretions. Okay, so pituitary gland, like I told you, it is the master gland. So from those from the master gland also certain hormones are certain hormones are released, which stimulates or which pushes the other endocrine gland to secrete their hormones. I hope it is clear. So now your next question is, which lobe of the above gland secretes oxytocin, ACTH, growth hormone? So you have to remember whether it is the posterior pituitary or whether it is the anterior pituitary which will secrete the following hormones. So oxytocin is secreted by the posterior lobe. I'm just writing P and A. So write posterior lobe. ACTH and growth hormone are both released by the anterior lobes. Okay. So this is the answer of your question. I hope this question is also clear. Very easy, but you should be thorough with the chapter. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So in question number 5, I am going to explain only the question number A, because the B section is not there in the syllabus now. It is from the topic evolution and it has been removed for this year. So we are going to skip it. Okay. So your first question, your question is, given below is an apparatus which was set up to investigate a physiological process in plants. The setup was placed in bright sunlight. Answer the questions that follow. Question is, sorry, name the process being studied, define the process. So as you can see that there are certain water droplets on the inner surface of the bell jar. So it is very clearly understandable that it is the process which is being studied is transpiration. And if you want to define the process, what will be the answer? Transpiration is the process by which water in the form of water vapor is released from the aerial parts of the plant. Why aerial? Because the leaves are the most important organs which are helping to lose this excessive water. So transpiration will be the answer for the first question. Now your next question is, why is the pot enclosed in a rubber sheet? As you can see, the pot is enclosed or it is covered with a rubber sheet. What is the answer for that? We want to just check transpiration. So if the rubber sheet was not there, the water which would be formed inside the bell jar, that might have contained water which would have been evaporated from the soil present in the pot also. But we don't want that to happen. We just want to locate the water which is released through transpiration. So in order to identify the water which is lost only through transpiration, we have covered the pot with rubber sheet. Or you can also say that in order to prevent any evaporation from the soil present in the pot, we have covered the pot with a rubber sheet. Both the answers are correct. Hope it is clear. Now your next question is, mention two external factors which can accelerate the above process. So which two factors can enhance this process of transpiration? So you know, high wind velocity. If we place a plant under the fan, transpiration will be more, so high wind velocity. And another answer can be high amount of sunlight. So if sunlight is more, or you can say if it is a sunny day, then what will happen? A lot of transpiration will occur. The water which is being released, that will evaporate quickly. Again, a lot more water will be coming out and that will be evaporated quickly. So these two factors you can write which will accelerate the above process. Also there are a number of other factors such as low humidity, high temperature. Okay, out of the factors given in your book, any two answers are acceptable. Now your next question is, list two adaptations in plants to reduce the above process. So there are a lot of examples in your book where there are certain plants which have certain structures inside them which prevents transpiration. So the first and the easiest one will be the presence of a thick cuticle. Thick cuticle prevents excessive water loss through transpiration. Also, if there is a loss of leaves, especially like in case of cactus, leaves are not present, spines are present, so transpiration is less. Also you can say that leaves are narrow in order to reduce the surface area for transpiration. Stomata is less in number. The stomata are sunken in shape. So these are the possible answers to the above question. Okay. Now your next question is, draw a neat label diagram of a stomatal apparatus. This is also directly from your book. So this is the diagram. So such a diagram is given in your book also. Make sure that you are also mentioning the epidermal cells, the guard cells. You are writing you are labeling it properly. Otherwise you will not get full marks for this question. So this is your required diagram. Hope it is clear. Let's move on to the next question now. Question number 6. It is related to the chapter inheritance. Okay. In Mendel's experiment, tall pea plant are dominant over dwarf pea plants. Okay. What is the phenotype and genotype of the F1 generation if a homozygous tall plant is crossed with a homozygous dwarf plant? So either you can write it directly if you are well equipped with the chapter, or you can also make the Punnett square and then you can write the answer. So I am going to help you out and I am going to make the Punnett square and then I am going to tell you the answer. So homozygous tall plant, that means capital T, and homozygous dwarf plant, that means small t. If they are crossed with one another, what will be the phenotype and what will be the genotype of the F1 generation? So let us make the cross. So the male and the female have not been given specifically, so I am just taking it as whatever I wish. So capital T on one side and small t on one side. So if I find out the possible combinations, it will be capital T small t, capital T small t, capital T small t and capital T small t. So what do we see? The phenotype of all these plants will be tall, isn't it? But what will be the genotype? The genotype will be heterozygous dominant. Because see, one is capital, one is small, so heterozygous. But since the capital is there, that means obviously it will be dominant. So heterozygous dominant will be your answer. Okay, hope this question is clear. So you can either write it directly that the phenotype will be all tall plants and the genotype will be heterozygous dominant, or you can also make the Punnett square and explain it. Okay, both are correct. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, draw a Punnett square board to show the gametes and offspring when both the parents are heterozygous for tallness. That means the answer which we obtained in the F1 generation, heterozygous dominant. Now if we cross two heterozygous dominant plants, what will be the genotype and the phenotype? Or we have to basically make the Punnett square. So let us do it. So capital T small t, capital T small t. Let's see what are the possible combinations which can occur. Capital T, capital T, capital T small t, capital T small t and small t small t. These are the possible combinations which can occur. So this is the second question. We just have to draw a Punnett square. Nothing has been asked. Okay, so don't end up writing things. Now your next question is, what is the phenotypic ratio and the genotypic ratio of the above cross into? Now from this cross we have to write what is the genotypic ratio and what is the phenotypic ratio. So the phenotypic ratio is much more easier to identify. So let's see. This is a tall plant. This is also a tall plant. This is also a tall plant, but this is a dwarf one. So our ratio will be 3:1. Okay. Now talking about the genotypic ratio, let us consider. So we see that there is one type of plant which has both the T's as capital, that means it is a homozygous dominant. So one, there are two such plants which are heterozygous dominant in nature, capital T small t. So 1:2, and there is one such plant which is homozygous recessive. Both the T's are small. So 1. So your ratio will be 1:2:1. So if you know about the monohybrid cross and the dihybrid cross, and if you know about their ratios, you can directly write the answer, and basically from the Punnett square we are just confirming it. Or if you have forgotten it, by using the Punnett square you can very easily remember it or recapitulate it once again. So this is the required ratio. Now what is our next question? State Mendel's law of dominance. In this case, since it is a law, you cannot write something according to your wish. You have to write whatever has been given in your book exactly to the point. So let me just read it out for you. Out of a pair of contrasting characters present together, only one is able to express itself while the other remains suppressed. Okay, so this is the law of dominance of Mendel. And what is the second question? What is the fifth question? What is a dihybrid cross? The cross which we just did now was a monohybrid cross because we were considering only one characteristic, that is tallness. But whenever we are considering two such characteristics, then it will be known as a dihybrid cross. So the definition will be a cross in which alternate traits of two characters are considered. Two. This is the difference, monohybrid and dihybrid cross. Dihybrid cross uses two characteristics, but monohybrid cross sticks to only one characteristic. I hope this question is clear to you. This chapter is one of the most dreaded chapters of students in class 10. I don't know why. This chapter is very simple. Once you understand it, the chapter is nothing at all. You just have to draw Punnett squares and find out the genotypic and phenotypic ratio, and you have to remember the dominant trait and the recessive trait in case of pea plant. That's all. There's nothing more in this chapter. Okay, then let's move on to the next question. This is from the chapter cell division. Given below is a diagram representing a stage during the mitotic cell division. Study the diagram and answer the following questions. So your first question is identify the stage by using a suitable reason. So which stage is this? I hope you all know this stage is anaphase, because you can see that the chromosomes, or you can say the sister chromatids, not the chromosomes, the sister chromatids are being pulled apart to the two poles. So the answer will be anaphase. Don't write late anaphase, please. Late and early are just used for denoting the stage of that particular process, but we are just going to write anaphase. So what is the reason? Like I told you, we see that the sister chromatids are being pulled apart to the two opposite poles, therefore this is anaphase. Okay. Now your next question is it a plant or an animal cell? Obviously it is quite understandable that it is an animal cell. First of all, its shape is a little spherical, it is not rectangular. That is one reason. Next reason is that we can see that there are centrioles present, right? Asters are present. Okay, there is no cell wall present. So we can directly say that this is an animal cell. So the most appropriate answer will be presence of centrioles, because in case of plant cells, no centriole is present, isn't it? So this is the answer. Question number 3, I am going to explain it in the next page. Let us do question number 4. How many chromosomes will each daughter cell have after the completion of the above division? So in the case of this cell, how many chromosomes it had? It had 4 chromosomes obviously, but now it has been broken apart into the sister chromatids due to the process of anaphase, but actually it had 4 chromosomes. So in case of mitosis, the chromosome number is not halved. The chromosome number remains same. So how many chromosomes will be present in the daughter cells? 4 chromosomes. Okay, so even when you are making the diagram like I am going to make in the next page, make sure that you are maintaining the chromosome number. Don't make 5 chromosomes instead of 4. You will get 0 for that. Okay. Alright, now your next question is name the 4 nitrogenous bases. Very important. So what are the 4 nitrogenous bases? A, T, G, C. So adenine. Again I am saying make sure that the spellings are correct. Adenine, thiamine or thiamine, whatever you want you can say. Then you have cytosine and you have guanine. Okay, so these are the 4 nitrogenous bases. Alright, so your question was draw a neat label diagram of the stage which follows the one which has been shown in the diagram. So after anaphase we have telophase, where a furrow forms in the animal cell, and basically the furrow deepens in order to form 2 daughter cells. The diagram will be somewhat like this. The furrow has deepened. The diagram which I am making is not very good. Please bear with me. You can check the correct diagram, or you can say the perfect diagram in your book. So I am just making it in order to make you understand. So there were 4 chromosomes. The nuclear membrane and all the other organelles start reappearing again, and you can see that the furrow is deepening. So this is the, yeah, and you can also make the centrioles. Okay, so this is the telophase which occurs right after anaphase. So I hope the diagram is clear. Make sure that you are labeling it also. So you have to write nuclear membrane reappears. Okay, these are the chromosomes. Then this is the aster, centriole, all this. Furrow deepens. You have to write all these things. Okay, this is the labeling. Alright, hope the question is clear to you. Let us move on to the last question of our question paper. Question number 7. Answer the following questions briefly. How are cytins and axons placed in brain and spinal cord? A very important question. So I'm going to write in this manner. So brain and spinal cord, outside and inside. So in case of brain, we know that outer portion contains gray matter, and in case of the inside portion it contains white matter. But in case of the spinal cord, it is just the opposite. The outer surface has white matter in it and the inner surface has gray matter. Okay, so gray matter is made up of what? Gray matter is made up of the cytin or the cell body. Okay, so the cytin is present outside, but inside the axon is present. But in case of the spinal cord, since it is opposite, the axons are present outside and the cytins are present inside. Okay, so this is the difference in the arrangement of cytins and axons in brain and spinal cord. A very common question. Okay, now your next question is, which part of the human ear gives dynamic balance and static balance to the body? So dynamic balance means the balance which is present in our body when we are moving, and static balance means the balance which is present in our body when we are at rest, when we are not moving. So dynamic balance is provided to us by the semicircular canals. It is from the chapter sense organs. Semicircular canals give us dynamic balance. Now talking about static balance is given by the utriculus and sacculus. Utriculus and sacculus. Make sure that you're remembering these terms, otherwise you will not be able to score marks. Many questions come from this topic. Okay, so read through the nervous system and the sense organs chapter very nicely. Okay, let's move on to the next question now. Explain how the human eye adapts itself to bright light and dim light. So what happens in case of bright light and what happens in case of dim light? We know that whenever we are moving into a bright lighted area, our pupils will constrict so that less amount of light will reach us and we can see things properly. So in case of bright light, the pupils will constrict, and in case of dim light, the pupils will dilate so as to allow more light to enter into our eye. Another difference which happens in our eyes whenever we are moving to bright light is that rhodopsin is getting removed, or you can say rhodopsin is degenerating. Okay, rhodopsin is not present anymore, but whenever we are again moving back to the dim light, rhodopsin is regenerated, which helps us to view things in the dark light. You must have seen that whenever you are suddenly moving into a brightly lit area or you are suddenly moving into a dim lighted area, you are not able to see anything properly, but with time our eyes are able to adapt itself, and then we are able to see the things around us. So the movement of the structure of the pupil, its constriction and its dilation helps us in this activity. Now another question is, what is parthenocarpy? Give an example. So parthenocarpy is a very important thing which is nowadays used a lot in production of certain substances, certain food materials also. So parthenocarpy is a procedure by which fruit is forming without actual fertilization. Okay, without the meeting of the two gametes, we are still able to get the fruit, we are still able to get the product. So there are certain examples such as watermelon, banana, etc., in which parthenocarpy is induced. Now your next question is a very easy one, and I don't think I have to explain it to you, but I'm just going to mention it. Mention any two objectives of the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. As the name suggests, obviously its main objective is to maintain cleanliness and hygiene in the surrounding areas, to clean the roads, streets, buildings around us, also to eliminate open defecation, okay, for to build toilets for usage, then to monitor the use of these type of washrooms, latrines, etc. Also the proper management of solid and liquid waste. There are so many other objectives of this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, so you can write any two such objectives. It has been given in your book very nicely. Hope this question is clear to you. Let us move on to the last question now. The diagram given below represents a system in the human body. Study the diagram and answer the following questions. So you can see that this is the diagram of a human female reproductive system. So identify the system. You have to write Female reproductive system, just don't write reproductive system. So female reproductive system. Okay. Now your next question is label the parts 5 and 6. 5 and 6. So 5 is the funnel of oviduct, or you can say oviducal funnel. Both the answers are correct. And 6 is the cervix. Okay. This diagram is given in your book. It is directly from the book. So make sure that you're going through the diagrams. I'm saying this to you again and again because biology is a diagram based question paper. Biology has a diagram based question paper. Lots and lots of labelings are asked. So make sure that each and every diagram is well situated in your memory so that you're going to get maximum marks from this topic. Okay. Name the two hormones secreted by one. So one is the ovary, and what are the two hormones which are secreted by ovary? Estrogen and progesterone, the main female hormones. Okay, this will be the answer. Again, make sure that you're writing the spellings correctly. Now your next question is mention the number and name the part involved in fertilization. So as you know, fertilization occurs in the fallopian tube or in the oviduct. So the two labeled portion is the place where fertilization occurs. So you have to write 2 and you have to write oviduct or the fallopian tube. And implantation occurs in the uterus. So uterus is denoted by 3 over here. So 3 and uterus. Okay, this is as simple as that. Okay, now your last question is mention the surgical methods of contraception in human females and in human males. Make sure that you're reading the word surgical. Don't just think that, okay, contraception, that means we can talk about pills or we can talk about other methods of contraception. No, you have to talk about the surgical methods only. So in case of males, what it is called? It is called vasectomy, where the sperm duct is tied or it is cut. And in case of females, it is known as tubectomy, where the fallopian tube is cut or tied, so that in both the cases fertilization doesn't occur and hence the population of India can be controlled. So this is the answer. I hope you have understood whatever I have taught in the class. The questions were very easy, but it was easy only for them who have understood the chapter and who have read nicely. So I'm wishing you all the best once again for the upcoming exams. Do well. This is your first board examination and I hope that everyone excels in a very good way in these examinations. Be confident and give your paper nicely, and I'm going to bring some more videos. Please give your valuable suggestions on which chapters video you want where you're facing some doubt, so that I can make certain videos for you, because there are a lot of gaps in between your examinations. You can benefit a lot from these videos. So till then, I would like to thank you all for patiently listening to me, and bye bye everyone.